Hi guys, today I'm going to tell you about one of the largest land predators to ever exist. Its name is Giganotosaurus, meaning giant southern lizard. Now, it might sound like a 7-year-old named the animal, but in reality it was named by two prominent paleontologists, Rodolfo Coria and Leonardo Salgado. Plus, the meaning is rather accurate. Giganotosaurus was truly massive, measuring up to 13 meters long, which is longer on average than the T-Rex. While I draw the template for this animal, let me tell you about some of its statistics. It weighed between 4 and 9.5 tons, one of the heaviest members of its family. Most other carcharodontosaurs were lighter, even behemoths like Mapusaurus and Acrocanthosaurus. Its stupendous size allowed it to not just dispatch prey, but to take shearing bites out of them and wait for them to collapse of blood loss and organ failure. Like many carcharodontosaurs, it was built to tackle massive prey. And when I say massive, I mean absolutely enormous. Andysaurus, a large sauropod, would have been on Giganotosaurus' menu, despite weighing multiple times as much as Giganotosaurus. Even so, it is unlikely that Giganotosaurus could have hunted such titanic creatures alone. Mapusaurus, a closely related animal to Giganotosaurus, was possibly a pack hunter. This was displayed when a bone bed of multiple Mapusaurus individuals of different ages were found close to each other, indicating that the Carcharodontosauridae could have been a gregarious family, though probably not a social one. This is why modern paleontologists envision Giganotosaurus as massive hunters, possibly working together occasionally to fell the largest prey. Okay, now let's talk about this animal's head. Giganotosaurus' skull was narrower and longer than that of the T-Rex because it was built for a very different purpose. You see, tyrannosaurs used their jaws to crush prey, shattering bones and causing massive amounts of raw damage in order to subdue their prey. A quick, brutal method, but not suitable for killing massive sauropods, whose bones would be much more robust. Giganotosaurus used its jaws like a huge pair of scissors, tearing large chunks of flesh out of its prey and opening numerous arteries in the process. This would mean that it could step in, take a bite, and step back, allowing the target to eventually weaken and bleed out. It wasn't clean, fast, nor surgical. It was, however, incredibly efficient and served as a primary hunting tactic for Carcharodontosauridae over the period of 36 million years. This principle was also supported by the numerous dagger-like teeth in Giganotosaurus' mouth. Each one was serrated like a steak knife, allowing it to bite through tough hide and flesh like knives through wet paper, the perfect blend for bleeding out massive victims. Giganotosaurus' eyes had a good amount of peripheral vision, as they faced mostly to the sides. But they weren't the best for binocular vision, as the shape of Giganotosaurus' skull inhibited forward-facing vision. The neck of Giganotosaurus was robust and relatively short. I know, I drew it a bit long. This meant that it could lash out at prey with relatively large forces, also allowing it to withstand the thrashing of struggling prey. Giganotosaurus' arms were pretty small and were probably not very useful for clawing at prey, although they were longer than the arms of T-Rex and Carnotaurus. Instead, they might have allowed Giganotosaurus to hold onto large prey, whilst taking bites out of them, sort of like a vice to hold animals in place. This creature was very heavy, as I have already mentioned, but now let's compare its absolute bulk to other creatures. It weighed between 7 and 9 tons. Tyrannosaurus rex from the late Cretaceous tipped the scales at a bulkier 9 to 10 tons, meaning that while Giganotosaurus was longer, T-Rex was likely heavier. Spinosaurus, arguably the longest land predator ever, weighed a lighter 7 to 8 tons. We can clearly see, therefore, that Giganotosaurus was on a similar weight class to the largest tyrannosaurs and the most massive spinosaurs. Probably the reason why so many debates occur amongst the fans of all three apexes. Giganotosaurus was likely not very fast. Now, there was a study conducted in 2001 regarding Giganotosaurus' speed, along with other long-limbed theropods, and the result was a conclusion that Giganotosaurus could run up to 31 miles an hour. This, however, is outdated information. Other, more recent studies have shown that Giganotosaurus, Acrocanthosaurus, and similar animals would have had to support a lot of weight on their legs. Being able to move an 8-ton body at the speed of an ostrich is extremely difficult and probably not within the bounds of nature. This is because of something known as the square cube law, which dictates that as an object grows, its volume and mass increase exponentially faster than its surface area. In simple words, if you take a dinosaur that's, say, 6 meters long and weighs 800 kilograms. Now, if we double its size, keeping everything about its skeleton, musculature, and anatomy the same, it won't weigh 1,600 kilograms, it will weigh a whopping 6,400 kilograms. This affects how fast animals can run, so Giganotosaurus, which may have averaged somewhere around 8 tons, might not even have been able to run. Giganotosaurus' tail was long and heavy, as it had to be to balance its enormous head. It allowed Giganotosaurus to keep its anterior balanced, like a counterweight. It probably wasn't very flexible, however, as it would need to be in a stiff, fixed position to effectively balance the animal. Now that we've had a look at Giganotosaurus' structure, let's move on to its many representations in the media. I won't mention each and every appearance, otherwise we'll be here all day. When it comes to movie appearances, Giganotosaurus is absolutely everywhere. The Land Before Time is a famous series of movies in which the Giganotosaurus appears as a variant of the villain Sharptooth in the 5th film. There's even a children's show called Gigantosaurus, featuring an oversized, rather inaccurate representation of this animal, but it is admittedly meant for preschoolers. How could I talk about Giganotosaurus media representations without mentioning the one in Jurassic World Dominion? Though rather inaccurate due to its spines and scutes because their design does look kind of like a Godzilla, it is very good at fulfilling its role as a movie monster. Giganotosaurus appearances in games actually tend to be more accurate. While the Jurassic World franchise games keep the spiky design, other games like The Isle, Path of Titans, in which they have the modded Giga, and The Cursed Isle include largely accurate models, even though the Isle's version does have exposed teeth. My drawing came out pretty nicely, in my honest opinion. It came out better than my previous one of Lilian Sternus. It does, however, have a slightly undersized head, which I'm not really surprised about. Giganotosaurus' head is indeed massive in proportion to its body. Anyways, that's all from me. By the way, if you want me to discuss a particular dinosaur in the future, why not put it in the comments and maybe I might speak about it soon. Thanks for hanging around until the end of the video. Please leave a like, and if you want to see similar videos in the future, press that subscribe button. Thank you, and see you in the next one.